Good evening, everyone. Is the state ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is the defendant ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's right. It took me a little bit longer than anticipated, but there was a lot of information to consider. Let me just start by saying that as multiple people have observed, this is a particularly difficult case because there's really nothing that the court can do that's capable of fixing the harm that has been caused to the victims in this case. So that being said, I've got to start with the law. I'm bound by the law, and the law gives me a guideline for how to analyze an appropriate sentence in this case. So I want to start with the Camacho case. It's really the first thing I need to address is whether or not the court's going to depart from the minimum in this case, which is 222 months or approximately 18 and a half years in the Florida State Prison as a minimum. The Camacho case, as Mr. Fitzgibbons pointed out and argued, lays out really a three-factor test. Is there a valid legal basis for departure? Is there competent substantial evidence that the facts support an application? Do the facts apply to the departure basis that is being asserted? To both of those questions, I answer those yes. There is a valid legal basis for departure, and there is competent substantial evidence that would support a departure. And really, I'd find that as to all of the departure bases argued, with the exception of the disparity argument. I'll just comment on that one for a moment. The defendant has argued that an available basis for departure is the disparity between the guidelines and the sentence that Mr. Barano got. I don't agree with that. I agree that disparity could potentially be an available legal basis for departure. But in this case, I don't think it applies because I do think that there are important substantive differences between the facts as applied to Mr. Barano and the facts as applied to Mr. Heyrin. The state's put those on the record. I won't elaborate on it too much other than to say I think that the difference, that the age of majority for Mr. Heyrin is one of those. But mostly I just think that the facts are different as between those two defendants. And so I don't believe that the facts in this case support that as a departure basis, because I believe that a disparity in sentence between Mr. Barano and Mr. Heyrin is appropriate in this case.
It's been devastating for him and our family.
The impact plays over and over in his head. It'll never go away.
His defense team saying Heyrin made a mistake and didn't fully understand the consequences that could occur while speeding. Dr. Michael Scott Mayer also testified that scientifically, the brain of an 18-year-old isn't fully developed and wired the same way the brain of a person in their 20s is.
How could he do something so stupid? He's a bright kid. It is because the stop and think part of the brain, the frontal lobe, where we stop and think about our action, is not developed.
Heyrin's family also talked about selling their house and fighting their insurance company to get money to pay the Reisinger Robin Holt family.
We also have a perspective on this. So I don't want to seem that I don't feel for the Heyrin family. I do. But their perspective on what they've lost can't compare to two sweet souls crossing the street coming home from a party.
The state also pulled up a log from Heyrin's Mustang that details how fast it was going just days before the crash, 162 miles per hour on I-75.
This was a crash, not an accident. Please be aware of that.
Emotional testimony from David Robin Holt, Jessica's husband, and Lilia's father went on for 45 minutes, with him addressing Cameron directly several times.
It is critical for you to understand that you've created everlasting pain and depths of sorrow.
He described his wife, her character, and personality. He then discussed how it feels to walk into his daughter's bedroom.
I can't get the thought out of my head of the entitled monster who killed them. Something happens to me in this room.
He says talking about the day of the crash is incredibly hard. He recalls being stuck in the traffic on Bayshore Boulevard and turning down a side street to avoid it. He says he knew something was wrong walking into Jessica's uncle's house to grab their luggage and not seeing them there. He says a stranger drove him to the hospital.
I remember seeing a chaplain walk out, and I knew she was dead. I can't explain to you the effort and courage it takes to walk into that morgue and see the injuries that you created on her.
David, in the end, begging the judge to give Heyrin a maximum sentence of 30 years. The judge has yet to make a decision.